Hello, welcome to your reading. Sorry it's taken so long to get here. To be honest, the month of February has been as chaotic as January was so far. Hopefully it will calm down though, but you know me. Here I believe that when I get to the readings, that's when it's meant to happen, right? So the card that fell out is the Warrior Path, which means you are walking the Warrior Path. It says walk with purpose, protect, and provide. This is from the Appalachian Spirit. I'm going to be shuffling these and drawing some, and then we will get into the actual reading. But, yeah, it's taken some time. There were moments where I had to take a mental health day, so. Soup beans reversed, like it or lump it. No, the choice is yours. All right. Scared the shit out of me. So, the Upright Warrior's Path card calls you to embody the truth spirit of a warrior who acts as a provider, protector, and a source of strength from others. Inspired by trails like the Athamowu, I'm not even going to try to butcher that name, but it's also known as the Warrior's Path. It is a native path. It's named after a native. Or the Path of the Armed Ones. The card urges you to step into your role with compassion and resolve, whether offering support to a loved ones or contributing to your community. Remember that your actions carry forward the resilience of those who have walked before you. Embrace your purpose with humanity, strength, and knowing that nurturing and safeguarding those around you is the highest form of service. And then we have Soup Bean, reversed. Like it or lump it, no, the choice is yours. When reversed, the Soup Bean card urges you to reflect on the choices you have in accepting or transforming your current circumstance. Life may not always offer ideal circumstances, but unlike childhood moments when you have to like it or lump it at the dinner table, you now have the power to decide what is right for you. Instead of going without, you can choose to seek better for yourself. There is value in making the most of what you have, but it's equally important to recognize when you're advocating for more. Use the moment to affirm your needs and take actions to honor them. All right. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. So here are some things you should know as I shuffle these cards. There are certain subjects that may come up that I'm not willing to discuss or speak on unless Spirit says otherwise. Most of the time they do. Sorry, my partner. But most of the time they do, and then sometimes they don't. But if I use the term death, know that it does not mean a literal death. It just means an ending in some way, shape, or form. If I use the term heavy, that's not good nor bad. That just means that there's a lot of energy or emotion behind the cards. If I use the term family, it does not necessarily mean blood relatives. It just means anybody that you have in your life that is considered family. And yeah, I'll draw 5. Typically, I draw 10 cards going over each individual one of them until Spirit says stop. So we have the Bat, Transition Unknown, which means I feel like right now you're at some sort of crossroads. We have the Bat, the Beaver, Trust and Home. We have the Iguana, Content and Satisfaction. We have the Crow card, Mystery and Magic. We have Empowerment and Freedom. Whew. We have the Spicy Scorpion, Anger and Spite. We have the Vulture, Adaptable and Opportunistic. We have Cooperation and Completion. We have the Seahorse, Generosity and Good Luck. And then we have the Walrus, Faith, Enlightenment and Faith. All right, so like I said with the Bat, Transition Unknown, I feel like in some aspect you're in a transitional period and or you are in a period where you are basically directly at a crossroads. The unknown aspect to that is the fact that a choice has to be made, right? Which direction do you go? The way that I view spiritual paths and just mundane paths in general, you can have 3 different paths in front of you. Just know going into it that there is no one specific path. With that being said, say you pick path C, but there are 2 major things on the other paths that you need to experience. They're going to intersect. You're going to experience them and then it'll correct itself. Okay, so no pressure to that whatsoever. But the unknown aspect is a choice has to be made. You need to go left, go right, go straight, before all the other cards can kind of fall, right? So this right here is kind of everything's up in the air until that one decision is being made. But also know that you don't have to make that decision in one day, and don't make that decision with just like panicking and or just saying, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Because again, every choice we make in some way, shape, or form has some type, I don't like really using the term consequence, but there's some type of reverberation after that, right? Now, right next to that, we have the beaver, which is trust in home. And this one's interesting because typically when this comes up, I'm like, tap into your resources. This is not that. This is you need to start trusting your spirit team. Okay, you need to start trusting the spiritual aspect of what's on the other side that is guiding you to reap the most benefits, right? Our ancestors, our spirits, and even the deities that we're working with, they want us to do as much as we can for ourselves to fully reach that full potential. But there's this aspect where I'm not going to say you need to return home, but it almost feels like you need to remember who you were before this particular chapter or path that you're on now before you started it. So in some aspects, you need to go back to your roots. Specifically, you need to go within and kind of in a way go down memory lane and figure out who you were, because I feel like you feel like there's pieces missing of you and it's like you're just wandering. But most importantly, you need to trust your spirit team. Okay, it's like when we start exercising these exercises to boost our intention and then we purposely ignore the intention, or not our intention, our intuition. Sometimes I get them mixed up. I'm dyslexic. But when we start to fully kind of blossom that intuition and then all of a sudden we just ignore it and we go the exact opposite way, it's going to cause friction. And I feel like that's what's happening now. So you need to trust the energies you're working with. You need to trust, and a lot of the times when I tell that to people, they're like, Lotus, I don't even know who my spirit guides are. You do though. Most of the time, in some way, shape, or form, the interactions that we have online, they're not really correct of how they should be. And what I mean by this is some people paint it off as just like we say, hey, spirit team, I need you. And it's like these spirits just show up. It's kind of like, and I cannot believe I'm stating this, but it really makes sense. It's kind of like what they say about God in the Bible, where he's omnipresent. He is everywhere at once, right? Your spirit team is there too. Now, yes, true enough, spirit teams can be actual spirits, but all you have to do is call upon them and say, okay, spirits, help me. Help me get the best direction to this. Help me make sure that I'm making the choice that is going to lead me to my highest good, right? I hate the fact that I just said highest good, but you get what I'm saying, right? So you need to start trusting where your spirit team and most importantly, where your soul is guiding you, all right? Right next to that, we have the iguana, which is content and satisfaction. So this is a very interesting card because there's almost a temperance aspect to this, which is, yes, enjoy the contentness, but never get used to the contentness because we're not always going to have that contentness in our lives, right? Most importantly for you, this content moment, and this is a moment where I kind of describe where like the clouds go away, it's sun shining, and it's like somebody's on a lazy river just enjoying the stream of life. For one, in some aspects, you're fighting the current of life, which is causing friction, it's causing frustration, it's causing confusion. But at the same time, when you reach this moment of contentness, you're going to realize that there are going to be certain areas in your life that are no longer satisfying you. You need to deep dive that and be like, okay, why is this no longer satisfying me? 9 times out of 10, you've either outgrown it or it's outgrown you, and or it doesn't fit where you are in life, right? A lot of people talk about balance, but in reality, balance is going to be different. Your balance that you have right now versus that you had 6 years ago is not going to be the same because we're ever growing, ever evolving, and ever changing. Thus, when we try to keep these things in our lives that are not really doing anything for us, it also creates this frustration because it's like doing your daily practice, right? Doing this morning routine, and you get to that point where it's not really doing what it used to do. A better thing of that, depending on when you were born, there are certain generations, 80s and 90s kids, where we were taught, go to school, go to college, marry somebody, have a white picket fence, and do all these things, and this is how you're going to feel. And a lot of people got halfway through that and they're like, well, fuck, I just finished college and everything that was ever told to me, nothing is happening right now except for I have a shit ton of student debt and I don't have like these billion-dollar companies trying to reach out to me to get a job. Right? So this is kind of that moment for you where you're like, okay, you're doing everything that you've been told and it's still not giving you the results. It's because you're outgrown. You've outgrown something and or these areas in your life. And the more that you keep them there, the more that this cycle is going to repeat. All right. I should have said this is a heavy reading, but at first I didn't sense it. Now I do. Right next to that, we have the Crow, Mystery, and Magic. All right. So for one, there are going to be certain things that are not coming through this reading because you don't really need to know them now. And it kind of goes into that paradox of saying, those movies where they try to prevent this huge disaster from happening, and they go back in time to try to prevent it only to realize them trying to prevent it is actually what triggers it. It's kind of that situation. The more you know about this right now, the more that it can actually go horribly wrong, right? The magic aspect is, and I feel like in some aspects you feel like the magical aspect has kind of just fizzled out. For one, that is typically normal, 100% normal, spiritually and witchcraft speaking, and typically it means that you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Not to mention with the current changing of the times and the weird-ass timeline that we're all on right now, a lot of people are feeling this. It almost feels like a burnout without being a burnout. And or what I would say, because I'm personally going through it in my own personal practice, we're at that evolving point. And I always describe it, it's when I kind of plateaued in Wicca. I was practicing Wicca for like 3 years and it got to a point where there was no advancing. There was nothing else that I could do and it just kind of plateaued. And due to how I was taught, I didn't think that I could just, quit it or unpack all the bullshit but keep the knowledge that I've learned and then try to maneuver and test out other things, eventually leading me to folk practices. For the longest time, I just practiced what I knew. Minus the Wiccan ideology of that. So basic, just straight up witchcraft, right? But I also feel like, I don't think it's Hecate, but it is some type of a keeper of the crossroads, and there is a torch, so it may be Hecate, but I also know that there's this confusion with Hecate because a lot of people are working with her. But with the crow, they're showing me a crow, and it looks very funny in my head. But they're showing me a crow or a raven. It's either a crow or a raven, but they're holding a lantern. And it's like they're flying in front of you saying, hey, follow me, right? Which means in some way, shape, or form, there is a deity that is reaching out to you that's like saying, hey, I can help guide you through this confusion. Which, believe it or not, that's very common. Gods and goddesses typically show up in our lives when not necessarily a life lesson, but a moment in time where we need their teachings and guidance the most. That is completely up to you if you would like to work with them or not. They're not helping me actually tell you who is reaching out to you. They're just giving me symbols. But depending on what you choose with that one, we have the empowerment and freedom card right next to that, which means depending on your actions, and again, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know this is going to be very uncomfortable and like icky, because there are going to be certain moments where you're going to need to step out of your comfort zone. And one of those, which is kind of mirrored with this card, the the generosity and good luck, is you're going to need to step out of your comfort zone and actually ask for assistance. But with that being said, I have to say this, go into this, especially if you're trying to look for like a teacher or a mentor, go into it with a hell of a lot of discernment and critical thinking. There's a lot of people currently right now in the witchy and occult side that is being exposed for scamming people, for lying, for all different types of shit. So it's very chaos and there's a lot of confusion out there, but use discernment. Also, don't go to one source. Go to multiple sources, and then kind of once you've talked to them and or you've gotten that information, kind of gather all that information and put it in front of you, and then find what's true to you. Okay, that's a huge lesson that a lot of people are not teaching in spirituality. It's the discernment and then still trying to figure out, okay, what resonates with you. And the way that I see this is how it's going to go is it's going to be highlighted for you. As in, once you get all this information and you put it in front of you, it's almost going to jump out at you. All right. But depending on that, this is also a self-expression journey as well, because there are aspects that you're not fully tapping into. There are aspects that you're blindly just disregarding and or just acting like it's not there. It's still there. Okay. And when you tap into that, this is like more of self-growth, because you going through this process, you're going to learn that you do have power. Maybe not the power we all wish we had, but you have the ability to fully step into your power. But you also have to realize that fully stepping into this power, it's going to awaken a lot of different things. And a lot of the times, this moment in time freaks people out, because there's an element to the intuitions, the psychic abilities. Everybody has them, but a lot of times people ignore them, and or when they do start to access, you still have to go through the discernment, because this is a weird area and I don't like talking about it that much, because there's a lot of mental health things that kind of overlay with that. But you need to fully step into that power. Now, if you step into this power, it's going to help you in ways, because I feel like in some aspects, there's somebody there that has implanted doubt in you. Whether they purposely knew what they were doing or not, it's there. And it's creating this wall that is making you blind to your own full potential and your own power. So you need to fully deep into that. If you embrace that power and kind of step into your own power, right? This is accepting yourself. The good, the bad, everything else in between. This is fully looking at yourself and kind of, I know this is going to sound very love and lighty, but this is accepting yourself and loving yourself, right? You stepping into that, I guess you would call it, what some people call it, like stepping into that dark feminine, right? This is you stepping into that. This is you fully embracing, okay, this is who I am and this is the path that I walk. It's going to open up doors that you didn't even see before. Thus, it's going to give you aspects of freedom that you haven't really experienced before. But there's also going to be a lot of closing out. There's going to be full circle moments that happen. Now, here's the slight warning with that. It's not really a warning. It's more of a cautionary tale. So we have the Scorpion, Anger and Spite, right next to the Vulture, Adaptable and Opportunistic. This is when your reading is going to sound very contradicting, where it's contradicting itself, but welcome to spirituality and witchcraft. I swear the amount of times that I've asked for a sign, and then I got the sign, and I was more confused after I got the sign. So we have the Scorpion, Anger and Spite. For one, I'm sensing some type of Scorpio energy. Very spicy, right? Spiteful, I feel like somebody is directing spite at you, and it's very weird because I almost feel like it's social, like the parasocial thing, where it's like somebody that you're friends with online is actually very fucking jealous of a lot of things you have going on in life, and they're secretly wishing you to fail. You're not. You're going to succeed, but kind of more along the lines of like pushing an evil eye at you, right? I'm not saying they're working you or working on you, but they're really sending that energy. Outside of that, though, anger and spite, for us to feel, it's very normal, but we need to try to find the root cause of why we feel this way, because if we harbor or hold on to these emotions, a lot of things happen. For one, you're giving away your power, and you're like, Lotus, how? Okay, imagine you going to work, and you woke up, you got the bones, you got the spoons, you got the energies, and you're just happy, right? And some egotistical person comes along and initially triggers you to get an emotional response, to purposely piss you off. Now you're pissed off, righteously so, and then you're also staying pissed off for the entire week. You're allowing somebody outside of you to direct how you feel. Take that power back by starving them of that. Now, another aspect that I like to tell when people get this card is a personal story with me. I had a lot of people that I looked up to, people that like I highly respected, look at me when they're like, so what do you want to do? And I've always wanted to do what I'm doing right now, reading cards. I wanted to be a professional witch, basically. And they're like, yeah, that's a pipe dream. Maybe we should tone that down and kind of really start to focus. But instead of giving up, because I'm stubborn as fuck, I'm an Aries, instead of giving up, I put all of that anger and all of that rage that it made me feel in a box. And the moments and times where I actually felt like I was fully just saying, fuck it, they're right, I literally poured that shit on the fire that is burning inside of me, and I used it as petty as fuck to do it so well that not only would I prove them right, I'm going to do it just to prove them right, right? This is what you need to do. You need to redirect that anger. So instead of using it to where it traps you, because when you hold on to this anger, it's going to fester. And then that festering, it's going to mutate and it's going to start bleeding and starting to affect every aspect of your life. You can redirect that by redirecting that anger and using it as fuel to be able to get out of this situation and or get away with this situation. But it's just like a lot of people say shadow work. Shadow work is overrated. Shadow work is not a requirement for witchcraft. But this aspect of shadow work is. And when I say this aspect is, it's actually finding, okay, why did that make you spiteful? Okay, what initially triggered you that gets you angry? When we're in a situation and we know that the people in the same situation as us, we know that if they purposely are going to try to trigger us, we can starve them of that by doing the exact opposite. So instead of losing your shit on them and crashing the fuck out, smile and be like, yeah, you're a piece of shit, but that's okay because you have to live with that, not me, and walk away. Same with magic. There's going to be a lot of times, magically speaking, where you're going to want to hex a bitch. I have a saying, don't hex a bitch, bless a bitch. If you have a person in your life that is so consumed in chaos and drama that they cannot live without it, the moment in time you cease that, you calm the storms, it's like taking a fish out of water. They don't know what to do. Not to mention, a lot of those people, they use the drama, they use the chaos as a distraction of how miserable they are in life. Which means when you calm all of that by blessing them, they literally freak the fuck out because now they have no other choice but to realize how much they're miserable in their own lives. So that's a huge responsibility of a witch, is knowing when to cast and when not to cast, right? Now, here comes the little fucking vultures. For one, I do feel like in some way, shape, or form, you need to start looking into, now when I say this, a lot of people tend to freak out. I don't think you will. You need to start looking into death deities. With me saying that, I am not verifying that you are a death witch. That is not what I'm saying. But I feel like in some aspects, you're going to be walking the path of the death witch. Again, that is not me fully verifying that you are one because I don't know. But there is a death deity trying to reach out to you. This is a person that typically, it's going to sound really weird, you're going to see themes of like death, but not like in a horror movie. Like mushrooms, right? Like the concept of something breaking down, but it's also just part of life, right? Death is never death is never the end, it's only the beginning. But there are also some moments in our personal lives where we go through a type of death. When a major, say a family member passes away. Here recently I had two childhood / like teenagers that I spent most of my 20s with and around, and both of them, one had recently passed a few years ago, and then I got news not too long ago that the other one had passed. And the other night I woke up at I think it was 4 a.m. 5 a.m. and had a full-blown panic attack, which led into other shit. But in that moment, that was also me realizing, holy shit, they're no longer here. It was a death. It's like those moments where as we're aging, we look back and we realize like, holy shit, it's an end of an era, right? Due to the society that we live in, we're not taught that it's okay to mourn and process that. We're just taught to suck it up and go about your day. You need that mourning because that's emotion, right? And I feel like in some aspects, and I'm getting full body chills when I say this, I feel like in some aspect, that's what you may be going through now. And it confuses a lot of people because we go through these small little deaths all the time. And again, death is never the actual ending. It's just the beginning. But we also sometimes have to trigger that. So there's a book that you may like. Let me know after you process this reading if you want me to send it to you. The only advice or the only cautionary tale is do not get the book and read it or practice it during a very heavy depressive spell, okay? Because it's very heavy and it's very deep. But in this book, there is a ritual that in the safest way possible, as in you are never putting your life in risk in any way, shape, or form. It's all symbolic. It's a near-death experience. But basically, the ritual is a book of death. And there's the book itself is the ritual. But it's basically like a spiritual the same reason when you go through a spiritual baptism or a religious baptism, as in when you dunk yourself and you get out of the water, you were no longer the same person. Imagine that, but with this long ass ritual. But I also feel like you're going to be able to gain information from there that's going to be able to help you with this. But basically, you have some sort of a death deity reaching out to you. When a death deity reaches out to you, it's not like the Grim Reaper that's coming to collect its soul. It means that they're going to show you the process and or behind the scenes of, it's primarily Western society. Western society, we're not really taught this. It's all a taboo. But most other cultures around the world, they don't look at death as the ending. They look at it as just the cycle of life. So yeah, now outside of that, you need to watch vultures from your past. Now, these are people, places. I don't know why I keep saying places. These are people, whether they were ex-lovers, friends, family members, coworkers, friends online, whatever they were. They're no longer in your life now. Why? Because you found out that they were toxic as fuck and you cut that shit out. Family member wise, these are the aunts and uncles and other family members that would hand you every single damn thing you needed as long as you dressed the way they wanted to, went to church, did all the shit that they wanted to, right? Basically, they wanted you to walk this one path versus you walking your own path. These are the weird people that are constantly keeping up with their social medias, even though you haven't talked to them in 15 years. They're liking every single one of your posts. They're keeping up with it. And then you periodically talk to another family member and you hear that they've been talking shit about you or some weird shit. These are the exes, the ex-best friends that are constantly saying they're over you, but yet they're stalking you at every aspect. The reason that is because these opportunistic vultures are looking for a moment in time where they think you are weak. Most of the time, it's when you need something, right? You're down on your luck and you need something. They're the first motherfuckers to come knocking at the door and be like, "Hey, here!" And they have the little basket and it has everything you need. What they're using that though, they're using it as an opportune moment to get back into your life. Do not allow these vultures back into your life. I'm not saying don't take the help, dear God, take the help, but also like snatch the basket and slam the door in their face, basically. And the reason that is because some of these people, they're very familiar, which means if you invite them back into your life, you have the cautionary aspect of possibly falling back into old patterns like that. You've come way too far. You've went through all the bullshit. You went through the healing. Do not allow these vultures back into your life, all right? Now, also, I feel like you're going to start seeing vultures, okay? And for some reason, I'm seeing more of artwork than actual like vultures, which is very weird for me. They've never shown me that before. But you also need to realize that the reason you've gotten this far is you're extremely adaptable. Any environment or situation you get into, you can adapt to it very quickly. That is a survival skill, okay? Now, right next to that, fucking ironically, we have recuperation and completion. This is that full circle moment that I was talking about. This is that moment where certain things come full circle and that cycle ends. This is you being the link that breaks some of the other cycles that you were in. When we get through a moment of completion like this in full circles, it is massive. Which means life knows that, and they know it's rough for a lot of people. So what do? That's when you go into the recuperative stage. This is a moment in time where most people hate this because it feels like everything has slowed down and almost stopped. Everything has gone stagnant, but it hasn't. It's just moving at a snail's pace, right? The reason it does that is for you to fully heal, recuperate yourself, fully recharge, fully reset the deck, if you would. That way when life, because as you're resetting things over here, resting, recharging, life is recalibrating things for you to line back up, walk back out that door on your next journey. This is a huge, huge card though, because there's a lot of completion. With this though, watch out for vices. Whatever vices they are, watch out, because this is the moment where it becomes a slippery slope to where your vices, you go from controlling it to now it's controlling you. Okay? Watch out for that, and watch out for necessarily falling back into old patterns because they're stress relievers. You know for a fact they are, but at the same time, they're not necessarily healthy. So try to find another avenue that's also with that, whether that's reading a book, writing a book, painting, photography, something that gets you active in some aspect, like creatively, right? Right next to that, we have the horse, generosity, and good luck. This is a moment in time where you are going to come into good luck. If we're talking astrology, everybody freaks out during certain retrogrades, but depending on where that retrograde is in your chart, that could be one of the luckiest times in the entire year. This is those moment in times where everything just goes your way perfectly. use that as a stepping stone. Okay. Now, outside of that, there's going to be a moment in time, and this is the moment that I said the empowerment card, where generosity, which means somebody is going to reach out and randomly help you, bless you, and or you're going to be able to do the same for them. Do it. Okay. Because this is going to create this cycle of people helping people, but most importantly, it's also going to help lead you to a person you're meant to meet as in a teacher mentor way. I don't fully understand that one, because to me, the feeling that I get is like you're meeting an old friend, but this is a person you've never met before. So use that wisely, but in the same time, know that this is also the moment in time that you find your roots. What I mean by that is, just like a seahorse, they use their tail to wrap around coral, especially when the tides get rough, to stable them out, right? This is when you find that stability and it is fully restored in you. Now, right next to this, and this is the contradicting part, all of this right here, it's going to give you a lot of enlightenment. Enlightenment is a double-edged sword, because in order to fully be enlightened, you need to clearly see things, which means you're going to get clarity in this too. That clarity and enlightenment is going to make you lose faith in a lot of things, because you're going to see a lot of blind spots. Here's the contradicting part. You need to keep faith that you're doing the right things and you're on the right path, because you are, while also simultaneously realizing that some of your faith has shifted. And this kind of goes back to that where I said you're at a crossroad and it feels like some of the things you're doing is no longer really bringing that pizzazz that it used to. It's because the faith has also changed. When we go through mundane things, it affects our faith. This right here is that. But at the same time, this enlightenment is also going to restore your faith. I know, it's an entire Pandora? What the fuck? Paradox. There we go. But just know that you are on the right path, all right? It's just, it may not look like the path that you originally thought you were going to be on. And also, don't rush this, because life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself, while at the same time, you also create your path, right? All right. So we have the donkey, burden and heavy loads. We have the beetle, clairvoyance and understanding. We have diplomacy and kindness. We have the owl, caution and wisdom. We have withdrawn and secretive. We have the possum, fear and avoidance. We have the buffalo, abundance and earth. The possum card is also going to be directly linked to the iguana card. We have the bee, hard work and success. We have the fox, patience and harmony. And we have the flamingo, romance and love. All right, so this is going to be heavy as fuck too. Just going to go ahead and let you know that. So we have the donkey, burden and heavy loads. Whatever you're carrying, whatever you're still holding on to, you need to release that, okay? You're very close to a burnout. You can carry a lot. You can handle a lot. But everybody has their breaking point. This is your warning that you need to also make sure you're resting and recharging yourself and not pouring from an empty cup while also burning the candle at both ends, okay? I understand we're witches. I understand that we can tap into that energy, but at certain points, our physical bodies have limits, okay? You're pushing it, okay? This is your sign, though, before you hit that breaking point to, hey, pull back on the reins a little bit. I also feel like you're carrying, for one, you're not a burden, okay? You have a rhyme, a reason, a time, and a place, and you are also loved, okay? Most importantly, though, I feel like you're carrying other people's burdens. You need to let that shit go, okay? It's not your obligation. It's not your responsibility to carry it. I don't care what they said. As they handed it off to you, you need to go ahead and throw that shit back, all right? It's not yours to carry. Release the burdens. Right next to that, we have clairvoyance and understanding. Again, you're going to be tapping into that. As we grow spiritually, a lot of things open up to us as well. Clairvoyances. Clairvoyance just means clear. Clear knowing, clear seeing, clear tasting, clear hearing, clear sensing. This is that moment for you, because you're going to embrace that. And if you embrace that, it's going to light things up. But also in the same time, you're going to be at the moment in time to where it makes sense. So the missing pieces that you've been feel like is just right out of arm's reach, all going to come together. And it's going to be like somebody ripping off a blinder. It's going to be slightly uncomfortable, but you need to know this, because it's just like, say a business partner comes up to you. Y'all been friends for 15 years, right? And you are about to sink everything you have, all of your life savings into this business. Would you want to know now that the business partner you're about to tie up with is going to basically rob you of everything and leave you high and dry? Would you rather know that now or 10 years down the road? I'd want to know it now. That way I can redirect that, right? That's what this kind of is. You're going to get that clarity, and it's going to feel like you've been hexed, you've been cursed. It's going to feel like the universe is just pissing in your Cheerios. It's not. It's highlighting these things. That way you're not being drugged down paths you don't need to go. Now, I'm also getting an overlay of the Death Watch Beetle from the Practical Magic deck, which means the things that you were currently stressing about right now, stop. Okay? When we stress, fear is initiated. When fear is initiated, it just starts this toxic tango where we wind up accidentally manifesting the one thing we don't want. It's like constantly waiting for the shoe to drop, but since we're constantly focusing on that shoe to drop, the shoe actually drops. All right? Don't. Okay? Things are going to work out in your favor. May not be exactly how you pictured it, but it is going to work out in your favor. Right next to that, we have diplomacy and kindness. You're going to need to be the bigger person. And it's going to suck in some situations. You're going to bite your tongue. Just don't bite it off, okay? When you come into a situation and you know there's nothing that you can say or do to change that other person's way, or at least get them to see from your perspective, get up and walk away, okay? Be the bigger person. You don't have to say the last word. Block them. You do not have to tell them why you're blocking them, and you don't have to tell them that you block them. Just block them, right? There's the situation that I explained to people. My stepfather is toxic as fuck. And it takes us almost blocking him on every aspect and most of his family. There was a point in time where my mom tried to separate and come down here. And he used his other family members and my nephew as a way to get back to her so they could have that communication. And me and her inevitably got into an argument because I'm like, he's doing this for a reason. Block them, okay? There are going to be certain situations where you also need to kind of kill them with kindness. In other words, if you know for a fact they're going to trigger you, do the exact opposite and don't show them that it's actually triggered you. Because again, they're there just to trigger you to get that emotional response, only to use that emotional response against you. Prove them wrong by doing the exact opposite. If you have been thinking about going back to a trade, a new career, or an old career, or it's weird. They're showing me a lot of symbols. But if you have been thinking about starting something and or like restarting something, do it. Plan it accordingly. Do not rush it, all right? Slow and steady, okay? The stronger that foundation is, you can build anything upon it. You can rip it down, rebuild it. Focus on the foundation now. Right next to that, we have the owl, caution and wisdom, and then withdrawn and secretive. So some of the clarity that's coming through, there's some cautionary aspects. I feel like in some way, shape, or form, there's some type of either contract or deal that's going to be presented to you. You're going to need to use your discernment and really listen to your intuition and not sign it. And the reason I say this, it's like, so during certain parts of Mercury retrograde, there are things when they're revealed to us or brought to us, it's puffed up to where it looks like this ideal paradise. In reality, it's a grease trap, okay? I don't know why, but they like to focus on the goods, right? And there are certain situations where you have the pros and the cons. But again, as adults, we know that we're not always going to go with the best pros because the cons may outweigh those and vice versa. It's that balancing act, right? But with this one, I feel like it's like a soup talker. It's a person who is telling you everything you've ever wanted to hear. And they know how, they could literally convince you that it is fucking snowing in the middle of July. Which at this weather, it fucking very well may be. But you do not need to listen to them, okay? There are going to be subtle hints of red flags. Listen to the red flags, all right? Use the wisdom that you already have to be able to see through the bullshit that they're going to be trying to spew you, okay? If this is with a house, like say you're about to move, don't necessarily go with the best option, and or at any point in time, if there's a glitch where the people, I don't know what they're called, where they come out and they try to check out the house before you actually sign it, you need to make sure that happens, because that's the kind of situation this is. It's like you're trying to buy a car off of Facebook Marketplace, and this person tells you, oh my God, yes, everything works perfect, and what they've actually done is greased it up a little bit so you can get about 20 miles down the road and then it falls apart. In those situations, try to bring somebody out there. Try to bring a mechanic friend that you know to actually look at there. Ask your friends or realtors, hey, what does this contract look like, right? Try to get outside help, but also trusted outside help, and use the wisdom that you have, all right? Right next to that, and with that clarity that you just received from the Beetle card, and the cautionary aspect is the withdrawn and secretive card. And weirdly enough, it's right above the flamingo, which is romance and love. So I don't know if you're in a relationship right now. I don't know if a relationship's coming to you, but if something new happens, be cautious of that, okay? And the reason I'm saying that is because, for one, they're showing me a line that's connecting it, but withdrawn and secretive. There's these aspects in your life that you're withdrawing from and you don't understand why. So there are moments and times where our subconscious actually sees things that our consciousness can't, right? Because we get blinded a lot. So a lot of the times, this is your body prepping you. Another feeling that I think you may have experienced before, it's like right before something major happens, it's like you sense the storm on the horizon before it even got to the horizon. That feeling, okay? You're withdrawing from it for a reason. I don't know the reason, but there is a reason. The side note to that is, in some way, shape, or form, something is being withheld from you, okay? I don't know if that's a secret. I don't exactly know what it is, but it is purposely being hid from you. And what I mean by that is when your intuition picks up on it and you start to turn, it's like a hand taps you on the shoulder and redirects your attention. Okay? Whatever that is, it is going to come out. It's going to come to the surface. Okay? So just don't rush that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Don't rush that. Okay? Also, don't heavily hyperfixate on that either. Right next to that, we have the possum card, which somehow is directly connected to that. Fear and avoidance. So remember when I said the iguana card, you're going to get that moment where everything is just smooth selling? You will, unless you're avoiding these things. When you avoid things, it creates a block in our lives because nothing can come through until this is addressed, okay? Why are you avoiding it? Yes, there are moments and times where you don't have the time, resources, or energy, but with this one, it's fear. There are certain things that you're fearing right now, and that fear is causing you to avoid them. The problem with this is if we feed into fear too much, it becomes a parasitic vine that completely takes over your life, okay? You need to starve them of that fear, all right? Now, again, there are moments and times where fear is real, and any of these things, if you're avoiding it because you don't have the time, the resources, the energy, I get that. All the stuff you can, go ahead and do it, okay? Because if not, when you get to that content moment, that's when this long-ass laundry list comes into play, and instead of being able to enjoy the contentness, you're having to tackle all of it all at once, all right? I also feel like there's fear that's holding you back from empowering yourself, from stepping into your own power, okay? You need to go ahead and let that go. All right. Right next to that, we have the buffalo, which is abundance in earth. You're going to come into an abundance in multiple areas. But during this process of abundance, you need to make sure you're grounding and centering yourself and making sure where you're distributing that is going to the right places, right? Mostly importantly, though, is some of the emotional aspects to this. You're going to make sure you're going to ground and center yourself, all right? Whether that's walking outside, whether that's touching a plant that you have in your home, or whether that is touching some type of grounding stone, you're going to need to ground. That's going to be able to help you get through it, and it's also going to be able to help you keep your foot planted. And what I mean by that is to make sure you don't get lost in the confusion. Right next to that, we have the B, which is hard work and success. All the hard work that you've been doing, it's going to pay off and be extremely successful. That success may be different than what you think, but it is going to be successful. But you also need to watch out for people who's going to try to steal that. So in the Appalachia Spirit deck, there's a card that is the honeysuckle card. And the reverse meaning of that is you have people that's stealing your nectar. In other words, instead of being mindful when we go out and we harvest this, instead of taking everything, we only take what we need. You have people in your life that is taking everything from you, and they're not replenishing it. They're just taking and taking and taking and taking and taking. And they look at you and you're like, yo, why are you not keeping up? What's up? It's because they've taken everything. Okay. Right next to that, we have the fox, which is patience and harmony. Some of the things and some of the success that's coming to you, you're going to have to show patience because it is coming. But again, witchcraft manifestation does not have a point of arrival. I really wish it did, but it doesn't. So it winds up showing up when you need it the most. But you yourself need to stop rushing it, because when you rush it and it doesn't come when you think it needs to, you start to doubt yourself. And this creates this entire cycle, right? Embrace the patience, thus you're going to be able to embrace the harmony. Now, there is this aspect where they're showing me a fox sneaking around a hen house. I don't exactly know what that means, because in different readings that they've showed me that, it has all different types of meanings. But on the flip side of that, they're also showing me what looks like these tiny little foxes. It reminds me of what you would see at a nursery. Like how they have the nursery sets that you can get, and there are all these like little animals. They're showing me that for some reason over and over again, and I don't know what that means. Right next to that, we have the flamingo, romance and love. There's a romantic aspect. I don't really talk about those. So when this card comes up, I always focus on making sure that you have balance in love, whether that's a relationship, a friendship, making sure that there's an equal type of balance, while also realizing that your own balance in your life is going to be restored. But a way to restore that is to also work on self-love and self-acceptance. All right. Now I'm going to pull 3 more cards, and that will be your reading for today. I also feel like I didn't want to say anything because I feel like there's an ancestor here and it had something to do with the throat and or like the esophagus. That's the reason I keep clearing my throat. And the reason I didn't necessarily want to say something about it is because they're not coming through very clear, but they're coming through clear enough to where I'm getting the senses of it. So in other words, and I hate doing this because I typically like more detail, but if you've had somebody in your family that was a family member and I feel like you were very close to them that had something wrong with the throat and or the lungs, this is their way of coming through and saying, hey, they're with you, you're not alone. They're extremely proud of you as well. But there are moments and times where you're being slightly hard-headed and you don't need to, okay? It's not like you have to prove them wrong or prove them right. You just need to be you. They are happy with everything that you've done, and they are proud of you, okay? All right. We have the alligator guard, confusion and misunderstand. We have the one card I don't like talking about, fertility and renewal. And then the toad, cleansing and transformation. So I don't like talking about fertility concerns due to the current state of the world. Especially, I stopped talking about it when the Wade versus Roe was overturned because I know it can give a lot of people anxiety. So we'll see what happens when that card comes. But confusion and misunderstood, again, you're going to have the keys to be able to see through that. But also know that there's a lot of things happening around you that you're not seeing the full details to. So if you go into situations thinking you know exactly how everything is, it's kind of going to symbolically blow up in your face. So go into it with the aspect of, okay, this is the things that I do know, but I also know that there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings due to the confusion that's currently happening with all of us right now. But when that moment happens, embrace, basically kind of call in that clarity, right? Be like, all right, spirits, clarity, 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 clarity. Help me clearly see what I cannot. All right. That confusion and misunderstood, though, it's not really going to last long. But you also, the reason that some other people or you feel like some people don't understand you is because you're not being true to yourself, thus, and or you don't trust these people enough to actually fully show them all sides of you. Okay. Right next to that, we have fertility and renewal. With the fertility, now know when I say fertility, I'm not just talking about giving birth. You can become fertile in multiple things. There is something there. It's a speckle. Is what I call it. In past situations when the speckle has happened, it is either A, dictated somebody in that person's family was about to give birth, and or they come into some type of lump sum of something, okay? Most importantly, this card is saying, hey, you need to rest, relax, and renew yourself. Again, you're very close to a burnout. And that may also be affecting the magical aspect and the reason that things are not doing it. You need to try to find like a day or two. It can be a couple hours. It doesn't have to be a full day where you're doing things that fully renew you, whether that's laying outside up under a tree, laying on the ground up under the moon, whatever it is to fully refresh you and renew you, all right? Because you're very close to a burnout, all right? I also feel like you have like 3 females, older females, they're all kin coming forward and like laying their shoulder on you, basically stating that y'all have been through similar things and they are also with you. And then the last card, cleansing and transformation. When we go through this amount of transformation, it's just like when we go from spring to summer, we do the spring cleaning, right? We're uncluttering in every aspect of your life, mentally, physically, mundanely, uncluttering all the stuff that we've collected during the winter. Because sometimes our lives become so full, like this tapestry, where there's no room to put the next book, which means some of the things you're trying to manifest, the reason it hasn't came yet is because there's not enough room in your life. Clearing that out and kind of refreshing that, it's also going to help with the renewal process, all right? So if you can, I guess, re-feng shui things. That in itself and that kind of reset in it, that in itself is also going to start you on another transformation. This is going to be more of a metamorphosis transformation. And I feel like this is going to be like mid-spring going into summer. You're going to feel a spark come and it's just going to blossom. As always, thank you so much. I hope this resonates. I hope this brings you some confirmation, affirmation, and clarity as well. Thank you so much for coming to me for a reading. I ask everybody, if you come across anybody who would like a reading, would you send them my way? And if you make any online content in any way, shape, or form, can you do a shout out or a review? And if you use the Book of Faces, I have a Facebook page. Unless you've already done it, because you can only leave one, could you leave a review on there? Or if you make TikToks, make a TikTok video. If not, and again, if you're not comfortable with that, I completely understand. But again, thank you so much, and I hope you're having a great day.